Hello again. As is so often the case with long and complicated documents, few of us are ever going to plough our way through the 800 pages of Baroness Hallett's report on how the COVID business was handled in this country. 800 pages! That's about the same length as George Eliot's Middlemarch or the Brothers Karamazov. Nobody, either ordinary citizen or the most diligent journalist, has actually read this document yet. It was, after all, only published yesterday. I'm happy to confirm that I haven't read it either, and nor do I have any intention of doing so. I'd rather reread Middlemarch if I'm going to tackle 800 pages of text. What has happened is, of course, that all the newspapers have been using computer programs to comb through the thing and find whatever will back up their own preconceived opinions and prejudices. So it is that the whole report has become all things to all men. Right-wing newspapers like the Daily Telegraph and Daily Mail are telling us that the report says that the lockdowns were unnecessary, while more left-wing papers like the Guardian and Daily Mirror claim that the report says that 23,000 lives could have been saved if we had lockdowns a week earlier. Since none of us will ever actually read the report, I suppose we'll just have to take our opinions ready formed from the news media about this. That Boris Johnson's government was quite unprepared for the worldwide crisis which struck in 2020 is probably true, and it is perhaps also true that he made mistakes in his reaction. I rather suspect, though, that this would have been the case with any prime minister who had to supervise the response to such a novel situation. I dare say that the headlines this morning, which claim that his reactions were chaotic, are perfectly correct. There was an awful lot of chaos about 5 years ago. I wonder if anybody remembers the reaction to the emergence of AIDS 40 years ago in the mid 1980s. The huge billboard advertisements warning us not to die of ignorance. The leaflet sent to every home in the country, the predictions of the exponential spread of HIV until millions of people in Britain would be infected, the insistence that it was racist and homophobic to assume that only black people, gay men, and junkies would be affected by AIDS, even though, as it turned out, only black people, gay men, and junkies were actually affected. The response to AIDS by Margaret Thatcher's government was, in other words, every bit as chaotic, ill thought out, and disorganised as that of Boris Johnson's administration when it came to COVID. The official warnings in the mid 1980s that everybody was at risk, men and women, gay and straight, were, of course, completely untrue and wholly misleading and alarming. I'm sure that I can't be the only person old enough to remember this earlier health crisis and to know that it was horribly mishandled. Whenever a new threat to health suddenly emerges in this way, of course governments are going to make terrible errors in dealing with it. That's the problem with unprecedented situations, you see. They are, well, unprecedented. That is to say, there is no blueprint for dealing with them. Decisions are made on the hoof before accurate and reliable information is available. This is why everybody is able to criticise Boris Johnson so savagely for what he did or failed to do when news first began to revive of the new virus. Kicking an ex-prime minister is always an enjoyable sport. I mean, I'm quite prone to it myself.